Good afternoon, Barbados. Dr. George mentioned just now, and this is very important. As a medical expert, he advised that we should stay indoors, close windows and doors, and only traverse the outdoors when absolutely necessary. And I'm going to speak to you now as it relates to indoor air quality, indoor air comfort, and what to expect. And I'm going to preface it by saying that there are two impacts that we can have, one on the occupants of the spaces and then one on the equipment. Over the years, Barbados's development has, obviously we've developed to the point where the majority of our buildings, our occupied spaces, are serviced by air conditioning. What that means is that a properly designed air conditioning system for occupancy comfort should have some measure of outdoor air makeup, so that you take the outdoor air by certain percentages and you sort of freshen the air in the indoor space, obviously using filtration systems. What this ash would present is a dangerous situation as it relates to changing the indoor air environment. There are filtration systems, but at some point in time, based on the dense nature of the ashfall that we're getting at times, it is bound to be breached. Those filtration systems are bound to be breached. And we will then be introducing into the indoor space the potential for having ash, which will have very erosive effects, but also there are chemical constituents that we wouldn't want to have. And Dr. Joseph, I believe, will be able to speak on this, but the sulfurs and everything associated with that ash, you wouldn't want to introduce into your indoor space either. So from an occupancy perspective, we are recommending that if there is no need to be in an office to turn on an air conditioning, don't do it. You don't want to compromise your indoor air quality. You don't want to compromise the indoor space by introducing ash into the indoor environment. The cleanup session would not be desirable. First, you'd have the ash to deal with, and then you also have the chemical components to deal with. From the second perspective, which is the equipment, the volcanic ash, and it was mentioned before that as it gets wet, it becomes extremely heavy. It becomes a sludge. It is very erosive. It is not like the typical dust that we will be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So imagine taking that dust, and I'm going to speak to you in simple terms. Imagine taking a piece of sandpaper and rubbing it over your conditioning equipment constantly. That is what you will be doing by operating your outdoor equipment. You're taking very erosive ash, blowing it with a fan across the coil, and asking that coil to be able to absorb the impact of that erosion. It will destroy the coil and the systems, the fans, in no time. Similar to what Mr. Blackman would have mentioned for his generating equipment and the challenges associated with the filtrations, to ensure that the filtration systems are in place and properly maintained. So you have the issue of the erosive action on the coil. And secondly, Barbados is experiencing some rain. And the sludge associated with the ash will also choke the equipment. So you would find that the components will tend to fail because the ability of the air conditioning system to breathe will be significantly depleted. And you wouldn't want to put your equipment under that type of stress. So our recommendation is, unless it is an essential service, and we acknowledge that there are areas that cannot close. I mean, there are medical facilities that still have to operate. You have the data centers and other services, telecommunication centers, which need to service the island continuously. For situations like that, our recommendation is to do constant monitoring and constant servicing, because we accept that those have to operate. But in situations where it is not essential, if you don't have to turn on your air conditioning, don't turn it on. That would be my advice to the island.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Prime Minister, at this stage,